This is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced.
Well, g'day, folks. Welcome to Friday. Another Friday, well, free for all, really. We love Fridays. Anybody can turn up, and occasionally some interesting people do. Tonight, the promise has been Guru will join us, as he usually does on a Friday, because he's got nothing better to do, and he sent the missus out to work. And there is a chance that the Aussie Cossack, if he can read his watch and tell the time and click on a link, will actually join us as well. We've seen some interesting stuff from him today, which I'll try and bring up a little later on. He's had quite the day in Sydney, our dear friend, the Aussie Cossack. He's had Avi Yemeni down there with him. And, well, on Vladimir Putin's birthday, I'm sure we are going to see whatever the two of them got up to through the day across the Cossacks channel, and quite probably Rebel News over the next little while. So looking forward to that. Actually, we invited Avi on too, but he'd already left. I don't have Avi's contact details, so I left that up to Cossack. But yeah, he said, "Oh no, look, I'm sorry, he's already gone, but I'm happy to come and join you." So at some stage, we expect he will come and join us. A little bit of housekeeping to begin with. We're getting back on the road. Looking forward to coming to Victoria. South Morang. I think it's Isabel in South Morang. I might be wrong. She might be in Shepparton. But at any rate, there is an Isabel. We're coming to South Morang, and we're doing a day show in South Morang rather than a night show. So I think our show is coming for lunch at the Zali Lounge Bar is where we're going to be. And then we're going to do the show after that. There are going to be a couple of interesting guests. Darren Bergwerf has indicated that he will come, and I think Craig Cole might, if I ask him politely, he might make the trip as well. So we'll see what Craig has to say. A1, of course, putting a number of nominees up for election in Victoria. When I say nominees, they're not A1 nominees. They are independents who are A1 supported. That means they've been through the background checks and all that sort of stuff. So we're looking forward to hearing how many of those people will be standing in how many seats in Victoria and representing independents. And with the support of A1, let's hope we can go forward and do some good things in Victoria. Hearing some absolute horror stories out of Victoria about Chairman Dan. The problem being, it seems to be there is a very weak opposition in Victoria. So weak I couldn't tell you the opposition leader's name. That's got to be a problem for Victorians, a bit of a conundrum. You get these bunch of loose-lipped, wimp, bloody Liberals who haven't got the vaguest idea who they are or what they stand for anymore. And the other side of the coin is Chairman Dan, who's going to lock your state down and have you eating with chopsticks in the not-too-distant future. That seems to be the greatest fear. So, Victorians, wake up. What are you doing? Think about it. Let's have a talk about it when I come there. South Morang on the 15th, Shepparton at the Terminus Hotel on the 16th, and the big one, of course, on the 19th of October will be at my place in Frankston. That's with Darren Bergwerf. I dare say Craig Cole might turn up to that one too, and you never know, there might be a few other surprises. There's a lot of interesting people floating around Melbourne, and I haven't seen a few of them in a few years. Speaking of a bloke I haven't had the opportunity to give a hug in a week or two, will you please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome Guru to the table. How are you, brother?
How are you? G'day, Carl. How you going, buddy?
Mate, I'm pretty good. We've had some reasonable weather in Queensland for the last few days. When I say reasonable, beautiful in the morning, cloudy by the afternoon, and overnight we get an odd little bit of rain. Thankfully, we're not getting anything like the rain you guys have copped over the last week or so. So do you want to give us, just for those folks who, and me particularly, because I haven't caught up, what's been happening water-wise in your part of the world in the last 3 or 4 days?
Okay, what's been happening water-wise, as most of us people would know, is that we've been getting hammered by, manipulated weather folks. So again, we've had some pretty heavy storms here. I've watched them build up. I done a live a couple of days before the rain come in, and And then I think it was the day before, and actually some people commented and said, "Oh, the user will get whacked." And we knew what they were building up. So we've actually got 3 low pressure systems down here, Carl. Now I remember this happening once before, and if those 3 do merge, it's actually when you've got people giving them a bit of a helping hand, to be directed on where they'd like to go. Well, we are going to see a lot of rain now. Melbourne's copping it. It's coming up through, and it's on this whole band, folks. If you look at it, you know what I mean. It was burnt out 3 years ago. And it's been flooded ever since, And what they'll do is they'll keep the floods up. It'll grow, and then they'll dry it out again, and then they'll reburn it, folks. It's all their plan. Okay, so we're copping the weather, but we know why we're copping the weather, and it's to dumb us down. It's to get us in a low mood and a low energy, folks. Because who likes living in rain? Everyone's around here. Their houses are going moldy. You know what I mean? It's not good for your health. These people are very, very well established in what they do and how they put these plans into work, So, it's wet here, Carl, and I expect it to be wet, probably up until Christmas, mate. To tell you the truth, I think they're really going to try and hammer us home.
So flooding, just minor, moderate, localised?
Look, localised, but as we move up towards the northern rivers and that, I know I haven't seen a great deal. As you know, we don't get to catch up on much mainstream, but as I know, up in the rivers up there, the northern rivers, it's back up again, Carl. And, same thing down through inland. We got, the Lachlan River, I've heard, is overflowing and flooding. So up above that, right up above that, we've got Cubby Station that I heard a couple of weeks ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of the walls blew out on Cubby Station Dam. Now, that's been controlled by the Chinese for a long time and wouldn't let any water downstream. Now we've got enough water downstream, and all of a sudden it has a break in the wall. We got arrested for some people got arrested and locked up that went in there to try and pull that down, if you remember, Carl.
Yes. It's interesting. You got to think that that dam wall at Cubby Station has been there for a long, long, long time. And it just overnight, one day, just collapsed.
Just when we've had enough rain, folks.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? Just an extra flood down the line. These guys have got people, we got to stand up, man. We really got to stand up, we got to do something. And we're talking about that, me and Carl and Kaz. I think Kaz might drop in sometime, Carl, actually. We're going to look at doing something, folks, because I believe that the media is the biggest problem that we've ever had. Okay. I think that the media is where we need to start, directing our pens and our emails, folks, and maybe a bit more than that in the near future. But, if we can just turn this mainstream, but they're the only ones holding the narrative for them now. I mean, I got told today, and I can't vet this, but I got told a phenomenal amount of doctors have committed suicide, Carl, in Australia. When I went to this guy, what is that in America? He went, no, that's Australia.
Yeah.
Now, that was a pretty big figure, folks, okay? All right, very big figure. So we've got everyone turning around, and we got people starting to wake it up. We know that by the new viewership we've got coming on our channels. We know that by the questions we're getting, you know what I mean, out there. So people are waking up, and everyone's starting to turn it around, except the media. The media are just contrite on telling you the narrative that the New World Order wants sold.
I think you're 100% on the money. The media have got a lot to answer for, and that starts with the person that you're seeing on the other end of the camera or watching on your television. But it goes much deeper than that. It goes to the board of the television, and it doesn't matter which television network you're talking about. I suppose it matters a little bit more about the ABC because that's meant to be our broadcaster. We're meant to have a significant say in how that's run. And I can tell you, both from a personal and professional experience, that they don't run like any normal media business, and they are not run by media people. They are run, particularly the ABC, in its management area, is run by people who have very limited experience in broadcast and very great experience in politics. So I think in media everywhere, the big players and the people who make it up the ladder, who are the executives, who are part of the board, they all know how to play the media game. And the media game is not a soft game. Okay, it's not a game of touch. It's a full contact sport. and you see how they weaponize information. I'm waiting for them to start on me. So, that's what they do. They weaponize information, particularly if you piss them off. So until we are able to crack it from the top down, because there's no point going up to Koshy and saying, you are going to tell the people what's really going on, because he doesn't know. He doesn't believe. He wouldn't believe if we were able to lay it out to him 100% flat. I don't believe he's that smart. I think he's been to too many universities.
So you don't think his bank account's too big to be knowing?
No, I don't think they're paying him deliberately to be quiet. Oh, well, let's take Koshy out of the argument. I'm not insinuating there's any payment or anything to Koshy. No, I don't think they pay any of their stars that way. They pay them handsomely, and because they pay them handsomely, those stars get used to that sort of money and the certain adulation that comes along with TV stardom, the limo rides, the champagne parties, the A-list invites. They get to sit down with the most important, beyond camera people at least, get to sit down with the most important people in the world at the most important times in the world and ask important questions. That's how they see themselves. I don't think that any of, at least I don't think many of the presenters on mainstream TV or radio, for that matter, are particularly awake or aware. They're not paid to be awake or aware. They're paid to read an auto cue and do what they're told. And if you're getting anywhere from $250,000 to $1 million or $2 million a year, then you do what you're told, unless your name is Kyle Sandilands. If your name is Kyle Sandilands, then you do what the bloody hell you like.
And Jackie O as well. Does Jackie get away with it all as well?
Is too, yeah. The Cossack.
Yes.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Cossack. We're getting too much into a conversation, and I didn't see that you'd arrived in the green room.
That's all right. I had a nice
birthday.
It's Vladimir Putin's birthday. Is that what we're celebrating?
Yeah.
Well, we hadn't got there quite just yet. But
have you seen? Yes. There was a military march with a band today in the city in honor of his birthday.
Yes. I've got a comment up here. They're saying they love the military band. So that was a very, very big effort on your behalf. Oh, good. Flying the flag inside the car, so you're not going to get a fine for flying things outside your car again. So that's good.
We've got diplomatic immunity when we fly these flags. The coppers don't want to stop us. You know what? When they see us driving with this, the copper radios his superior, and the superior says, "Listen, constable, this is in the too hard basket."
Drive away, back away slowly, turn the lights and sirens off, back away slowly.
No, but in all honesty, let's be very serious, because there is a war at the moment.
Exactly.
And I'd like to say,
just going to say, Simeon, we actually put it out on my show again just an hour ago, mate, how serious this is about Russia and people knowing what's really going on, you know what I mean, and what's happening behind the scenes, not what's happening in the mainstream media, buddy.
Absolutely. So what I'd like to say firstly is, on behalf of myself and behalf of many like-minded Australian friends that we have in Australia, Australian people out there, I'd like to congratulate Vladimir Putin on his birthday. And I'd like to say a few words in Russian. Благоденственное и мирное житие, здравие же и спасение, и во всем благое поспешение подашь, Господи, рабу Твоему, главнокомандующему, Христолюбимому войску, Владимиру Первому, и сохрани его на много лета. And we say many years to Vladimir Putin.
Great. It sounded a bit longer than that. You're not going to get me banned.
Yeah, I was about to say that, and now I got nothing else to do. I might as well leave the show, mate. You just took my line off me.
So you're only here to congratulate Putin, you're saying?
Oh, no. We're here.
You just gave up the whole operation, Dave. I mean, this is supposed to be a secret, our arrangement. You know, when you get on the show and I talk about Putin, and then you're like, yes. And then Carl's like, let's talk about Putin again. You know, I thought that was between us.
Listen, if we're going to talk about the arrangement, that brown paper bag only seems to go to your place. It never seems to go to Dave's boat or mine. So,
well, my place has been the New South Wales Corrective Facility for the last half a year. So I've got a very good excuse. If it was the guards taking the brown paper bag on the slide, then it's the screws.
Not that we're accusing anyone. Mate,
good, brother.
On Vladimir Putin's birthday, the Lowy Institute today decided they'd interview the one and only President Zelensky of Ukraine. He turned up in his neatly pressed T-shirt and proceeded to thank Australia for the Bushmasters, which have apparently been invaluable, except for the ones that haven't. They've been blown up. But the ones that haven't been blown up have been very valuable. And apparently Australia has supplied $388 million in military aid and $68 million in humanitarian aid. Who here thinks those figures are back to front?
I'd like to see the Australian government provide some humanitarian aid to the people of Lismore.
I was about to say, I'd like to know where you'd like to see all those millions spent. Simeon, give me a quick rundown. Where could we spend that money, Simeon? Instead of
look at all the potholes in Sydney this morning. You know, taking my wife to work, and bloody, it's just unbelievable. It's potholes everywhere. This Albanese government has lost the plot completely. You know, today there was a military march in the city. It was a military style march. It was. It turns out it was actually a community group in Australia, but who are actually very anti-Chinese government. And they were marching, and you look at the way they're organized, you look at the way they march, you know, and then you look at what we have, Albanese, Penny Wong, and Richard Marles, and you think, you just want to do a face palm. You know, Penny Wong and Richard Marles, they're going into territory which is way out of their pay grade. And I say that with full respect, you know. We got to know our size and how much we can chew and bite off, right? I'm saying this as an Australian who's concerned that effectively, Penny Wong and Richard Marles and Albanese are demilitarizing Australia. Demilitarizing Australia by shipping off Australian M777 howitzers, which we have a shortage of, by shipping off Bushmasters, with $5 million a pop, and we've got a shortage of them. Now Albanese is trying to figure out where he can build some. You know, it's a disgrace. We need every single piece of weaponry in Australia, don't we? There are plenty of threats around the corner, knocking on the door in the Solomons, for example.
But Simeon, if I can cut in there, we have weaponry in Australia. You know, we could be building these things, these bushmarket thingos. We could be building them in these big buildings that they have, and they're building now in Melbourne to make a bio weapon. Why can't we use them factories to make bush rangers instead of making bio weapons to kill the people?
You know, it's just the same reason why can't Australia build its own weapons and its own submarines and so forth. You know, they stuffed up the submarine deal with the French. You know, there was billions and billions of dollars that went to waste. Now the Americans have promised, you know, Richard Marles submarines, you know, in something like 2030 or 2040 or 2050, something ridiculous. But that means they're not coming. I'll tell you why. The moment Australia acquires nuclear submarines is the moment where Australia can dictate its own terms to countries in the region and everywhere else. And what Australia needs is armed neutrality, so we can stop being a puppy dog of the United States and a puppy dog of the British. Every single war where the Liberal and Labor governments have involved our diggers has been, although they were valiant and heroic, and we remember them lest we forget, but it has been to no political or sensible benefit to the world. Korea, no benefit to Australia. Vietnam, no benefit to Australia. Afghanistan, no benefit to Australia. Iraq, no benefit to Australia. The list goes on and on. Now, Australia is not a colony. Now, there's a reason why we fly the Eureka flag. We fly the red ensign. There's a reason why Australia is as a proud country, and why Australians by nature don't want to be involved in conflicts. You know how many Aussies have called me and come up to me and sent me emails and contacted the Russian embassy and contacted the Russian consulate, and they're saying the Russians are our friends, we're on your side, we want you to know that. You know, Guru, like you represent a large section of the community, especially the people who are awake and out there. What's your experience? Out of 1,000 people, how many would you meet? Out of 1,000 Australians, how many of them would you say are pro-Russian in this conflict?
If they're on my channel, they are. But if they're out in the community, not very many at all. There's the occasional. And I'd have to say that they're all friends of mine from the Freedom family that I'd run into, and we talk about Putin. But most other people, they are just sold on the mainstream narrative. They have no idea what's going on. And we've got to make this known. And it's up to us, as you just said, Simeon, to actually get this out. And I've been pumping this on my show. We're doing one Russian thing every night. We have been with Kaz. And because we need to get it now, you know, we're heavily censored, but still somehow or other we've just got.
I'll get your show and I'll post it every time you do it. You just forward me on Telegram. I'll repost it on the Aussie Cossack channel because we've got a lot of coverage there, including Russia is starting to listen to what we're saying, and I have no doubt that the things we talk about will be those things that how Russia will base its approach to Australia on. Russians will listen to what we have to say, right? Russians won't listen to Penny Wong. You know, and when I say Russians, I mean the Russian government, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have no respect for Penny Wong. They have no respect for these journalists, like that journalist a few days ago. I posted a video on the Aussie Cossack YouTube. Yeah. Did you see her and her question to Lavrov?
No.
Oh, it was an embarrassment. You have a look at the comment section. I mean, mainstream media fake news journalist asks Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at a live press conference in front of everybody. She says, what about the pressure that China's putting on you, Russia, basically? And Lavrov's like, what are you talking about? What pressure? Pressure? Some mainstream media journalists in Australia have this ridiculous assumption that Penny Wong talked to the Chinese foreign minister and asked the Chinese foreign minister to put pressure on the Russians. Penny Wong lives in La La Land. I'll tell you what actually happened. Penny Wong walks into the Chinese embassy and says, listen, we're really worried. We've sent bushmasters. We've sent artillery. We're stuffed. We don't know what to do next. We're on the Russians' unfriendly list. And the Chinese said to them, what do you want us to do? And Penny Wong said, can you please tell Putin to leave us alone, you know, to not get us involved in the war? Because Russia put Australia on the unfriendly list. Every country in NATO that's in the war, right? Plus Australia. Australia's the only non-NATO country. Only Albanese and Scott Morrison are stupid enough to be there, right? All the other countries are neutral. They're staying out of it unless they're in NATO. Now, guys, Australia is not in NATO. We are not North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We're our own continent. We're in the south. We're nowhere near these borders. We should not risk getting involved in a nuclear war. You know, if Australia had its own fleet of submarines, why not? But we don't, because the Liberal government stuffed it up and the Labor government stuffed it up again by giving it to the Americans. Now, if they would have listened to me, I would have organized for Australia to buy very cheap but very effective Russian nuclear submarines. And we could have brokered that deal with Putin. And happy birthday to him, by the way. And he would have done it. You know why? Because Indonesia, up to the north of us, has 40 Russian submarines. 40. You know, we got serious threats in the region, Indonesia and China. And Penny Wong has shipped all of our best missiles, our best artillery over to Ukraine. Not mentioning $400 million, but most astoundingly, what Penny Wong has done is put Australia on the unfriendly list. So the way Russia works, right, is they have military doctrine, they have protocol. None of this woke bullshit, you know, this tolerance stuff and the new age rubbish. They're serious. They go back to the Soviet days. There's a military doctrine. When this happens, we do this, right? For example, when they launch tanks at us, we launch this at them. When they do this, when they put rockets here, we do this. Now, what's the doctrine for sending missiles? Penny Wong sent Australian missiles against Russia. She is absolutely out of her mind. What do you think Russia does when replying via doctrine, military doctrine? Military doctrine is not Putin's opinion. It's not what the general staff think. It's not what the flavor of the day is. It's written 25 years ago, and they stick to it, and it's in a safe. And you get the keys and you unlock it, and the instructions are, do this, do this, do this. If Australia's on the unfriendly list, thanks to Penny Wong's absolute disgrace of diplomacy, I mean, who is she working for? She's not working for Australia. Penny Wong is not helping us as Australians. You know, who knows who Penny Wong is working for? But I'll tell you something, guys, and I want to hear your opinion, Guru and Carl. If Penny Wong is asking for help to the Chinese, begging them to save Australia from the Russians, I think we have a clearer understanding of who she's actually working for. That's all I've got to say. What do you reckon?
I have a lot of questions about Penny Wong, but nobody ever wants to supply any answers. And if you ask hard questions of Penny Wong, you are always tarred as some kind of, right-wing extremist who's bigoted or, got a thing against women who like women. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's just a way of.
Well, let's just say that all of us blokes here present today love women who like women. All right, Penny Wong. So you can cross that off your bucket list. You can't play that card.
No.
What else?
No.
What other cards she'll play? And also, we love China and people of Chinese heritage, and especially Chinese food and succulent Chinese meals. So
I was going to say the only pressure over there, Carl, and Simeon, between the Chinese and the Russian would have been the effort put into undoing the bottle on the top of the vodka when Xi and Putin sat down to have a little nip, mate. I reckon that was the only bit of pressure in the room, buddy, just to crack the seal on that friggin' 100-year-old vodka and have a little snap.
Let me tell you something. You're exactly right, Guru. That Xi Jinping and Putin would have sat down as old mates, as gentlemen. You know.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, Xi Jinping and Putin are guys that actually have military parades. Yeah. I was just thinking about it today. They're guys that live by the old school, right? Yeah. We know what kind of parades Penny Wong likes to have, and they're definitely not military parades. You know, no. I mean, let's just be quite honest here. Do you really think that Putin and Xi Jinping care about what Penny Wong had to say? It would have been like swatting a fly. It's like, what's that noise? Or a mosquito. It's hilarious. Yeah. And then you got bloody Richard Marles today, who comes out and says the Bushmasters are affecting the outcome of the war. That was a headline in the mainstream media today. Richard Marles, Australian Defence Minister.
Yeah. The thing that I think he leaked today in his little chat with the Lowy Institute, Zelensky's come out and said that Australia is sending another little special packet. More Bushmasters coming, more missiles coming, but there is another little special packet, small arms and something else. So,
gentlemen, let's have a prayer. Let's have a prayer that Russia is kind and Russia is meek and Russia is understanding and it pities Australia and it doesn't send missiles back at Australia. You know, the fact that, they're sending missiles and they keep sending missiles, they're not going to change the outcome of the war. Richard Marles is either hopelessly disinformed from a military strategic aspect or he's a deliberate idiot, right? I don't know Richard Marles, what his history is and what kind of work he's been doing and where he got his credentials to be a defense minister. But to suggest that Bushmasters are changing the outcome of the Russian-Ukrainian war is a joke. Look at all the, on our Telegram channel, Aussie Cossack, all the videos and photos of destroyed Bushmasters. You got Bushmasters being driven around as trophies now by Chechen special forces, Spetsnaz. Don't forget, your first thing, we're up against the whole of the Russian military now. This is not like, oh, let's send a few Bushmasters to East Timor like we usually do. Or let's send a few Bushmasters to Nauru or Fiji. This isn't your backyard, Penny. This is a serious war. Russia is not mucking around. The whole country's mobilizing. They said partial mobilized, but let's just pray it's not a full mobilized. Because full mobilized, coming back to doctrine, once it's full mobilization, doctrine kicks in. And one of those doctrines is that the war will not be fought on Russian territory. So you can imagine what that means. And then there's a list of enemy countries. And I pray again that this doesn't get to this. Because, Australians are very good people. Australians should not be involved in this war. And this is the lucky country. It's the best country in the world. It's a beautiful country, right? We should preserve this country. If there's a nuclear war between Ukraine, Russia, NATO countries over there in the borders next to Russia, well, so be it. Because there's an extremely high chance that a small to medium-sized nuclear weapon will be detonated somewhere there. Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of the Chechen Republic, very powerful figure in Russia at the moment because the Chechens are right in the war. They're very good fighters. They've been fighting the Russians for the last 20 years, and they specialize in street-to-street combat, building by building, because that's what happened in Chechnya. It was all, ambushes and tanks. It was very serious. So the Chechens leader, he has said public in Russia that we should use a medium let's say small to medium, small caliber nuclear weapon over there. But the problem is the Americans also have doctrine. And if Russia starts launching nukes, even if it's one, that could mean that it kicks off completely. So we need to make sure Australia's not on anyone's list. Australia's not even involved in the war. Who cares about Ukraine? Who cares about Russia? Let's worry about our own stuff. Let's worry about getting through next week because the world's on a very, very dangerous footing at the moment.
Let's just hope that we're right and Trump has the nuclear codes, not Biden, and therefore the fucking West can't react, Simeon. That's the best thing we can pray for as well, mate, that all this bullshit behind the scenes means that Trump does have the nuclear codes, and I believe he does. Okay, they wouldn't let him into the hands of that muppet. So that does give us one good thing there, guys. But, Russia is not going to sit back and be harassed like they have been. The deep state's just picking a fight, guys. All right, they're picking a fight with a much, much bigger power. Right, but
you can see the motivation, though. You can see the motivation in the figures I quoted earlier. War makes money. We've sent $388 million worth of weaponry, military help, aid to there. Now, we're going to have to make another $400 million plus to replace all of the stuff we've sent over there. As Simeon mentioned, we've got precious few bushmasters. I dare say the Bendigo factory that manufactures them will be putting on a few more welders in the near future. So,
Mate, I'm in labour hire. We've got shortages everywhere, right? In labour hire, I've got clients screaming for workers. Screaming. Yeah. They're ringing me up. Simeon, can you get us, 10 welders? Can you get us 10? Actually, by the way, if you're a welder and you want a job, contact me. In the description, you'll see the link for labour hire. Welders in northern New South Wales. Need about 10 blokes for 10 months, pay for accommodation and everything. Right. Getting back to the question, you're exactly right. We don't have the resources. We can't come up with weapons to replace what we're sending. Australia is in the most dangerous defensive position it's ever been since the Battle of the Coral Sea, since 1942 when the Japanese were knocking on the door. This is the most dangerous we've been, at risk or at harm. And it's thanks to the ridiculous foreign policy of Penny Wong, of Scott Morrison, of the current Albanese government. And it's up to us as Australians to spread awareness and educate each other, like you do, Guru, and like you do, Carl. Like the work you guys do as Australians who are awake, and Australians who are not only awake themselves, but they're able to educate the others and save the others from being manipulated by the mainstream media. The mainstream media is so manipulative, and it's such when you just turn it off, when you stop watching mainstream media altogether, you discover a huge new world. It's like, people are saying Russia's losing the war. Russia's losing the war. Turn the TV off, and Russia's not losing the war anymore. Russia's going to plan, and Russia, by the way, has already reclaimed 130,000 square kilometers of territory. That's huge. It's a 1,500 kilometer front, and this is amazing success. This is a territory that's the size of Greece or Hungary or Portugal, and the mainstream media is saying that Russia's losing the war. They're off their heads.
Oh no! They're saying that Ukraine have made huge inroads. They've recaptured 500 kilometers of territory. I don't know that that's true at all.
As they say in Serbian, svaka im čast. Good luck to them if they're saying that. Svaka im čast. If that's what they believe, that they're winning, that's all right. You know what's happening at the moment? The Ukrainians are so we've got to be careful how we talk because of the censorship. But they're so understocked and depleted in their military power, ability, and in terms of human resources, there's no one left to fight. The Americans are in there. There's NATO everywhere. Russian sources coming out are saying that it's full on. Everywhere you look now, the Russians are looking on the satellites. They can see NATO, NATO, NATO. Everything is American. Everything is coming from the Germans, the British, and the Australians are in there too. This is what I'm saying. We should not be in there. Americans supplying, $44 billion every few days or something astronomical. Our pissy little bushmasters that, Richard Miles is bragging about are not going to change anything. The only thing that's going to change is that Australia is a recognized combatant in the war. And that's what we need to avoid. We need to be all promoting Australian neutrality. Whatever happens in Europe, let them sort it out. It's their business. Guys, let's think back to, 1942, when the lesson, the history lesson, because history always repeats. The Battle of the Coral Sea. We had no troops in Australia, or weapons for that matter, or any solid armor or tanks or any sort of defense to put up a resistance to the impending Japanese invasion in 1942. All of our troops were overseas fighting in a desert, in El Alamein, in Tobruk. Yes, they fought heroically, but again, they were guarding British colonial interests and outposts, which became Egyptian after that anyway. So this colonial mentality, we've still got it. We're still following the British off the edge of the cliff. The whole point about the Crimean War, again, scaring Australia into the thinking that the Russian fleet's on the way, and then convincing the Aussies, Australia, a small country back then, to send money to Britain to sponsor the British effort on the Crimean War. Exactly the same concept. It's happened so many times. Australia needs to wake up, stand up. We need armed neutrality. We need to be a strong power. We can't be a puppy dog like Penny Wong wants us to be. That's not what Australians are about. Australians are being tough, being fair, being independent, being strong, being sovereign, right? This woke rubbish, let's be friends with everyone. Why we have no money for our own weapons? Because we hand out so much Australian aid. How much money they give out to other countries, especially in the Pacific. That's all Penny Wong did. She went around from island to island hopping, offering money, saying, take our money, not the Chinese money, because if you take our money, there's no strings attached. That is a literal quote from Penny Wong's foreign policy. So Australia was only able to buy off the Pacific. we shouldn't be spending this money overseas. We shouldn't be spending money in Ukraine. We should be, doing what a patriotic leader would say to do in Australia, and that's focus on our own defense, focus on getting some submarines, make friends with the bloody Russians. The Russians will give us the submarines for 1/10 of the price, and once we have Russian subs, no one will mess with us. Where America has been fooling Australia for decades and decades, dragging us into wars. Our diggers are dying in these wars. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. And yes, again, lest we forget their memory. They fought valiantly. We commemorate them on Anzac Day every year at the going down of the sun. But even the veterans will tell you. That we gained nothing, and Australia will gain nothing in Ukraine. And Carl, Guru, I know you guys are awake, you're switched on, and we're having a discussion here as colleagues who are on board, and understand what is actually going on. So I wanted to ask you, Carl, what do you make of Elon Musk's very interesting step to actually offer a peace deal, and then the Ukrainians rejected it?
Yeah, I thought it was a big step on Elon Musk's part, actually. And their rebuttal was immediate. They didn't want to know anything about it. In fact, wasn't it to Elon Musk, thanks, but fuck off? Wasn't that the quote or something along those lines? So, yeah, that's... Elon Musk may well have offered to broker it, but so has Donald Trump. And haven't seen any rebuttal of that just yet, except Biden now suggesting today that he's going to ramp up, whatever options he has, which I assume has something to do with the fake football somebody's carrying around for him, and the threat of nuclear weaponization. But Simeon, it is October. There is a large Russian submarine that, to quote the media, disappeared from the dock. And funnily enough, is now believed to be submerged somewhere in the Atlantic. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't every submarine base in Russia in the Arctic, in the Arctic Ocean? So
no, they have a Pacific fleet, they have a Northern fleet, they have a Black Sea fleet, and they also have a Caspian Sea fleet, even though Caspian Sea is inland. And speaking of Caspian Sea, Russians are receiving very, very strong support from Iran. The Russian, I'll admit this, the Russian drone systems, the UAV systems were outdated, and that's perfectly fine to admit. The Russian style of warfare is a little bit different to American style of just, dishonestly killing people from the sky. But nevertheless, the Iranians have given their whole absolute fleet of these Geran drones, raining havoc on the NATO positions. So you've got now, Iran is fighting America in Ukraine, and Iranian drones are hitting Hindmarsh American missile systems. So the Americans have got all their stuff there, and they're being wiped out by Iranians. You see how this is becoming World War III. Yeah. Just to put into perspective, the amount of tanks that have been now destroyed on all sides of the conflict actually is more than the battles of Kursk, more than the battles of the greatest tank battles, Kharkiv. Wow. We've got, in terms of the amount of armor and the amount of military capital that's going in there. Of course, and there's huge losses. Russia is not fighting Ukraine at all. In fact, there's hardly anything left of the Ukrainian army. They are fighting mercenaries. They are fighting NATO.
Yeah.
They're fighting deep state. They're fighting the exact same people who have been peddling all the lies, who have been covering up all of the cover-ups, who have been, manipulating the whole world all these years. And now I'm very proud of you guys, your listeners, your followers, your viewers, and also Ricardo Bosi, and also the other, strong-minded and independent-thinking people, and Bosi especially, because he straight away from day one, he said it, and there's a quote. He said, Putin is in Ukraine, what did he say? To cut the head off the snake of the globalists.
Yep.
And he called it from day one. And a lot of people laughed and thought, oh, what's that, But the ones who wanted to accept, you could say, an alternative view, be educated, they trusted Bosi. They trusted him. Same on my channel. We've got a lot of people that in the first days of the war, they're jumping up and down and putting Ukrainian flags on their profiles and, blah, 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 I stand with Ukraine. And look at them now. Now they are completely aware and awake of what's going on, So you guys are doing a great service, yourself, Carl, and yourself, Guru, and of course, your colleagues and Ricardo, in facilitating the friendship between Russia and Australia. It should be the mainstream media doing this, but the mainstream media are doing the complete opposite. Yeah. The mainstream media is pouring petrol on the fire, trying to facilitate war, urging Penny Wong and public opinion to push for Australian involvement. We've heard nothing but warmongering. Look at the Daily Mail, the kind of articles they published yesterday, where they're celebrating the fact that Russians are being shot, Russian civilians are being shot and massacred on the street by Nazis, by Ukrainians, just because they were located in areas where the Russians have withdrawn. You know, where the Russians army withdraws, like Kharkiv they withdrew, in the northern regions they withdrew, Sumy they withdrew. The Ukrainians come in, and it's like, you know, the Gestapo terror squads knock on the door, you know, and the neighbors dob on each other. I saw that woman accepting Russian tin spam, beef, humanitarian aid, or there you go around, boom, you accepted food from the Russians, bang, on the spot, killed. They dob each other, and I saw that person showing the Russian tanks which way to turn left, where to go through the forest. Ukrainians come over, someone dobs them in. It's massacre, it's genocide of Russians at the moment in those areas, especially where Russia has withdrawn. And that's why the Russians are mobilizing.
Then the Russians are being blamed for that as shooting these folks on the way out the door, so to speak, and then the Ukrainians are supposedly finding them that way.
Look, if the Russians were interested in shooting the population, there was already ample opportunity to do so. In fact, those avenues will never be exhausted. But the Russians are trying not to get to that point. That's why the Russian offensive is going slowly, because they don't have the goal of destroying everything and killing everyone. They are there to simply rescue their own people. The people that live there are Russian. Russia is not in the western states. Russia is pulled out of the northern states. All they want is that strip of land that goes from a land bridge from Crimea to the Russian mainland. Because the Ukrainians turned off water to Crimea. No one talks about this. Why Putin had to do it. Could you imagine the Ukrainians put a dam and dammed the river flowing downhill, a river that supplied 6 million people with water? And that's a war crime. In any other country, if the Nazis did that, everyone would be shocked if the Germans did that, you know, in 1941. And that's what the Ukrainians did. That's why Putin has taken this area at the bottom. And he's got security over the Azov Sea, because from the Azov Sea, if the Ukrainians are part of NATO, that would mean that the American submarines and aircraft carriers can just roll right in. You know, this is Russian backyard we're talking about. That's why the Russians are going to defend it to the very last drop. For the Russians, this is the second great patriotic war. In other words, to the West, it's World War III. This will only end in a Russian victory. It's all other avenues. You know, Putin has said in his speeches, when he was trying to reason with the West and warn them and trying to go for peace and deflate it, so many times he tried. He had so much patience. In fact, Russian patriots were getting sick of it. They're saying, you know, when are you going to do it? When are you going to fix the problem? Because Putin was so benevolent. If it was a different leader, if it was Kadyrov, if it was Zhirinovsky, who passed away, if it was someone from the Russian Communist Party, the hardline Soviets, mate, they wouldn't mess around, like, you know, give chances like Putin does. In fact, if you watch Putin's speeches, he tells the rest of the world what he's about to do. He's a very honest politician. He says on the 22nd of February, I'm going to take this, evacuate this area. He says, this is your last chance. Tomorrow it'll start. He tells them. They don't believe him. He's saying now, I'm going to use the nuclear weapons because I don't want any more Russians to die. He has an obligation to protect Russia. He's the president, and he's the president of a very proud military history. The Russians, unlike many Western countries, still believe in honor and dignity, and they have a proud military history. And when it gets to this point...
I listened to a blog today, which I found very interesting. It suggested that Vladimir Putin was actually born, raised, and bred for the position that he is in, simply to avenge the Romanovs. Now, they quoted Boris Yeltsin when they interred the bodies that they finally identified through DNA, I think, as the Romanov family, or parts of the Romanov family anyway. And that was the same day, I think, that Boris Yeltsin resigned and appointed Vladimir Putin temporarily as president with the role to avenge what happened with the Romanovs. Do you know anything about it, or can you explain what happened with the Romanovs?
I can tell you that purely from a scientific DNA point of view, it's unlikely. However, from a spiritual point of view, and especially if we can, include some of the details, and instead of facts, we can replace them with metaphors, I think it's definitely true. And you'll be surprised that what you're talking about, the spiritual resuscitation of Russia, the spiritual awakening, and the spiritual fortress which Russia is becoming, because the rest of the world is just becoming, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's becoming the absolute, the rest of the world is becoming the reason why there were floods in Noah's time. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a Christian and you read the Bible, you'll understand. And a lot of the people in the world realize this and see Russia as the last bastion of Christianity, of hope, of last bastion for traditional values, for family values, for real patriotism. So this is a reason why the satanic powers in the West that exist, the very strong satanic powers, and we know this is not a conspiracy theory. We know that this is true. We know that the deep state globalists, we know what they're up to, and we know that Russia is basically a fight at the moment between Christ and the Antichrist. You could put it to global perspectives.
Yep.
It's a very serious situation, and people who believe in God, they see unfolding in the Book of Revelations what we're seeing today. We also see a lot of people actually coming to God now. We had, and anyone who wants to become Russian Orthodox, always welcome to see the churches and the priests are very, very friendly.
Quick plug.
I don't know. I've heard some of those priests are far too friendly, but we can talk about that another time.
Hey, am I correct to say that a couple of years ago there was also a couple of peace deals offered early in the peace, Cossack or Carl? Is that correct? To Ukraine?
Peace deals?
Yeah.
Offered by Russia?
No, peace deals by no.
I only know of Trump and Elon Musk stepping up to try and negotiate.
I'll tell you, Putin has been offering peace deals since 2014.
Yeah,
okay, there was very clear Minsk agreements, Minsk Accords. Russia doesn't want to destroy Ukraine or invade Ukraine. Russia wants to secure the livelihood and the safety, literally the security of its compatriots, of its sootechnik.
So
this whole.
Yeah.
I mean, Putin never wanted war, and he's still avoiding war. This is what the West should understand. Russia is still avoiding war. Russia's just instead of having a bath, Russia has just tested its big toe to see the temperature. You know what I mean? That's the level of what's going on. It's not. There was a very clear example. In all of the previous wars, in World War II, in the First World War, Russian mobilization is a very slow process, and Russians consider mobilization as part of the peace talking process. And when Putin says I've partially mobilized, that means he's still leaving an opportunity. He's trying to say to the rest, to NATO, to these globalist powers, he's trying to say to them, it's still not too late to back off. Leave us alone. You've got NATO on his doorstep firing rockets into his cities, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Are they completely mad? This is very, very serious.
It is literally poking the bear, isn't it? Literally poking the bear. Can I just get us off
Russians are rallying. You awakened the bear. It's going to be this now. Now it doesn't matter who is in charge of the country, whether it was Putin or not Putin. Russians will rally to the defense of their motherland. This is a very, very strange concept for many people in the woke West. That there is a such thing as patriotism and spirit and rallying for the motherland. And this is when the whole country awakens. It's actually for the Russian people. The Russian people and our country itself, it actually prospers in times of war. If you look at all the wars that the Russians had, we come out of wars with heroes, with new lands, with wealth, with stability, with rebuilding process, with excellent.
Simeon, can I ask, is the Russian media actually putting out that Australia has these bad actors that are actually enticing them into the war? Do the Russians know that we're not behind this, so we don't want nothing to do with it? We've just got a couple of criminals at the top end that are dragging us into it.
Yeah.
Look, I've done everything possible to convey this, and that's why a lot of the videos, and even videos with Carl that we've done already, and other videos, and Bozy videos are also, I've actually translated to Russian, and we even launched a Russian-speaking channel. We want the Russians in Russia. We want the leadership. We want the people, want the generals and the headquarters and the strategists and the staff to see that Australia is not an enemy country. Australia is not part of a war. We don't want Russia to view Australia as a combatant. And the fact that Penny Wong keeps sending missiles at Russia is just silly. It's silly.
Yeah.
All it's going to do is endanger Australian interests. We're not going to win anything. I guarantee Australia will not gain anything from sending missiles. And the fact that, we need these missiles here. Australian patriots like you all agree that Australia needs to defend itself in the Pacific.
Yep.
I mean, there is a global weapons shortage at the moment because of the war. Every single thing that possibly it can be used has been shipped over to Ukraine. Even the Germans have said we can't provide anymore because we don't have any more, right?
Yeah.
So this is the level of how serious the war is. We need to immediately stop all the involvement. And I think, guys, I want to put the word out on the 22nd, Guru, 22nd of October. We should have a Australian neutrality march for Australian neutrality in the city. And I'd like all of you guys to organize it. And it would be nice to have that support to show, not even support, sorry, it's actually to show Russia that Australia is not an enemy. We need Australians to walk out into the streets with their flags and so forth, and send a message to Russia, send a message to the Russian government, send a message to the whole Russian military.
Yep.
And so that Australia is not an enemy. Australia is not against Russia. We do not agree with Penny Wong's warmongering tactics. We do not agree with Albanese's diplomacy style.
Yeah.
Don't forget, Russia and China are very close.
Oh yeah.
What if Putin is asking China to open a second front? Does anyone in Penny Wong's office think about that? If I was Putin, that's what I'd be saying to Xi. I'd say, Xi's saying, how can I help? And Putin's saying, open a second front, just like in the Americans did in Normandy in 1944 to help the Soviets.
Yep.
This is the perfect time for China to conduct their interests. It is the perfect time. And Penny Wong needs to protect Australian interests. We want peace. We're against war. We don't want Australia involved. This is a beautiful country. And guys, I want to leave you with that with those thoughts. Mrs. Cossack is calling me for dinner at a very good venue. It's called the Narodna Odbrana, which means the Serbian Defense League. Could you believe this place actually exists in Sydney?
Beautiful.
Imagine what the coppers are thinking.
How do you type that into the bloody nav finder?
Yeah, I imagine what the coppers are thinking. They're thinking, Boykov has just announced that he's meeting people at the Defense League disaster. But it's actually called that. It's actually called that. You can search it on ASIC.
See ya.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for popping in.
Let's
Appreciate
stay in touch.
it.
We'll get it
And
done.
Kaz has jumped in. I'm sorry, Kaz. Just as the Cossack departs.
I was enjoying the rant. Great rant.
He does enjoy a talk. I did try to steer him off that topic just, 3 times. But I'm going to start it up with you guys. I've had enough of Russia for one night.
I actually do know something about Putin.
Oh, all right. Well, share away.
Yeah, no, I actually know a Romanov. And he pretty much, Putin is from a bloodline actually, he's from a bloodline which is more similar to the imperial Chinese family, but they're all related, all the royals. So there you go.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All right. There you go. Handy bit of news. So I was going to ask Cossack, and his input would have been important, but he doesn't pause long enough to hear any other questions, so he misses out on this end of the chat. I wanted to talk about the freedom movement in general at the moment. Now, there seems to be a lot going on. There's the pedal to Melbourne, which is happening at the moment, and I don't know. I believe today they all drove around Melbourne City, which would have been a great deal of fun. Don't know that it's achieved. Do we know what it's about? Do we know what it's trying to achieve? What are they doing over the next few days? Giro, I know you're not able to tell us because for some reason or other you've been banned. I've never even heard from the people who are running it. So,
actually, Amanda Sheevy's on the ground there. She's covering it. There's a long march going on at the moment, and it's actually very long. And they're marching from where was it?
So I don't know. I'm hearing Kaz will give you an update on it, but I can't help anyone with anything because I was barred from the update channel, folks. But I don't know, people putting comments in our show tonight, Carl, like, some people from the freedom movement were told not to go to Melbourne and this, that and the other. That wasn't done to me, folks. I don't know anything about that, but there's a lot of gossip out there. I don't really know. But, look, they're in Melbourne, they're grouped up, and what they're actually doing, Carl, as you said, I can't really help you with that, but
no.
I presume it's awareness. Kaz, do you know exactly the
So tomorrow there's an Assange chain and also a another march, but they plan to meet up at some point and then march through the city. And then each day's basically got something going on. So let me just pull up the itinerary.
What's the end game, Kaz? What are they out to achieve?
Well, I think it's just basically showing strength in numbers.
I think Camillo brings up a pretty good point here. The movement is divided. I would say it's fractured. I would say it's falling apart. I would say there are a lot of people who are trying to rise up or are screaming because they're not being seen or heard enough, or they haven't got a reasonable enough argument for people to be bothered talking to them, or they present too many problems. Mac being one of those ones, I would say, presents too many problems for some of us, rightly or wrongly. That's just how it is. Wouldn't bother, and I don't know why people do. So he's just one of a number, but they're the ones that seem to be screaming. And now, Guru, you seem to be getting attacked by a meme by a moron named Lance, who I believe is married to Lawyer X. I would have thought that Lawyer X could give him some advice about defamation. I would have thought Lucky Lance might want to know a lot about defamation. However, I do think he's very creative, and I think if you send those memes to me, mate, I'm going to make some of the funniest content ever out of them, and I'm going to thank him because, well, you don't get free content like that delivered to you for nothing every day. So exactly. I love trolls who come up with shit like that. I love creative trolls. I think creative trolls, moronic trolls are a waste of time, but creative trolls, I can use your content, boys.
Yeah, use them, like they use it against us. But to give you an update on the freedom movement, Carl, what I think's happening is, we sort of Canberra put us through the washing cycle. Okay, and we thought we'd come out of the washing cycle and we sort of sorted out who's who in the zoo a little bit. And then we started to dry out, right, in the drip dry session of the washing machine or the washing cycle. And what happened is we found that we had a few more stains on the clothes. Isn't a good way to put it. So I think that we've gone back into the washing cycle again, Carl. And, some people are getting revealed, some things are coming out, some people are standing by people who they shouldn't be standing by. Some people are covering up stuff they shouldn't be covering up. But again, how I've played this whole thing over the last, especially 9 months, is to sit back and watch this happen, Carl, and then react, when need to react. And many times I haven't had to react because they've done all the work for us. And I say us as in the genuine people of the freedom movement. They are imploding, they are exposing themselves. So it's all timing, Carl. And I think as we get to the end game of the war here, and this stage that we're in now, that we always speak about disclosure. And I think disclosure needs to come from all areas. And I think disclosure will come from all areas. No one has to drag it out. It will come out. Why? Because we're shining a light. And where we have light, we can't have darkness. So the further we put the light and the truth out, the more these little cockroaches have got to run away. You know what I mean? And, I'm not calling anyone a cockroach. That's just
I think this also relates to the media question we were talking about earlier. How do you make mainstream media as one turn 180 degrees from their narrative? I think what you have to do is have an event of such gravitas, or what looks to be an event of such gravitas, that the whole media can't ignore it. And somehow, if they were to try and ignore it, would be to expose them. If they tried to ignore this sort of event, because it would be an event that I think everybody on earth would see at some point, and for the media to say nothing happened is going to be a bit weird. So I think that to turn the media around, we need an event like that. Now, this might be the Russian submarine. It could be a whole heap of other things. But this goes to the arrests, and when are we going to see arrests? Well, things are happening. People are being arrested. We're not seeing them yet. And there is a reason for that. I mean, I'm impatient for it too. I think we're all impatient for it. Kaz, I know that you've got contacts in places where none of us have got contacts. And you know that. I mean, we know that people are being arrested. They're being given choices. Those choices, well, they're not being given choices anymore. The time for choice is over. But they were given choices. And the choices involved ankle bracelets and playing along with the game, telling the story they're told to play, or getting shot and replaced by a clone.
One simple one to research, folks, is Utah. Have a look what's happening in Utah, okay, with the sheriff's department over there, mate. This guy's brought them all down, mate. Okay, pedophilia ring, all the shit. Go and have a look. There's arrests happening everywhere. Yeah,
have a look in your news. You'll see that things are happening. Even on news.com, they report things that are happening. Just you've got to remember they report the inverse. What they want you to believe is 180 degrees to what the bloody truth actually is.
Exactly.
So as long as you read those stories with that in mind, and they say, oh, you know, Putin's a bastard, you can read, well, he's not a bad bloke. You know, he's killing Ukrainians. Well, no, he's not killing Ukrainians. He's, you know, in some cases, and I meant to ask the Cossack about this, I'm led to believe that in certain parts of Russia now, including some of those new states that have just voted to rejoin, that Nasara Jasara has taken effect, and those people who did have bank loans and home loans and all that sort of stuff now own their property free and clear with no loans, no debt. All debt has been forgiven. So you've got to imagine that when the Russians walk into any part of Ukraine and say all debt is forgiven, welcome back to the motherland, those folks are going to be pretty happy, I would have thought.
You ain't kidding me.
Yeah, well, it is gold back.
So there are things happening.
Yeah, well, it is gold back. So on a financial matter, what's actually happening at the moment is the US dollar is about 112 to the rest of the world, but the Russians have backed theirs, and the BRICS nations are actually all going over there. But the issue so what will actually happen is the US dollar, because everyone's looking for safety at the moment with the instability. So the dollar is going to explode. The US dollar is going to explode higher to about 130, 140 or something like that before people realize that, hang on a minute, it's an oil back. So previously what all these countries used to have to convert to American dollars in order to buy their oil. Well, now they're just doing deals amongst themselves. They're saying, I think it was India yesterday. Was it India? Have done a deal with Russia, and they're buying it with rubles. So, and the rubles are actually gold back. So it is actually a form of Jasara without.
Yep. It's a gold back currency.
Yeah, 1,000 rubles.
Yep. Absolutely. Anxious Aussie here has dropped in something interesting. So apparently Dickhead Lance, who must be a friend of Anxious Aussie, says it was his wife who exposed the corruption around Lawyer X, you negligent spin doctor. I'm assuming he's pointing to me as the spin doctor.
I'd say so.
Yeah, okay. Well, Anxious Aussie, woohoo. I've been called a name. Nice.
Get used to it. You're hanging around Guru, mate. You're going to cop shit.
Yeah, dickhead. I'm a spin doctor. Oh, I'm enjoying being called names. That's fun. I've just put him in timeout for a little while so he learns his position. We'll see
I love it when you call me names.
Hey, Brittany Higgins is making the news at the moment. Of course, Brittany, known for what happened in Parliament House with her and an alleged rape. She's not doing terribly well under cross-examination. And I make no comment on, rights, wrongs, or ins or outs. So I'm just saying that the media seem to be treating her rather harshly at the moment, given their reporting on what's been going on in the trial. Have you guys caught up with any of that?
Yeah, the dress was an issue. I noticed that today that she said that. So her story originally was that she came home and put the dress under her bed and couldn't touch it for 6 weeks because it was, because it was disgusting. However, there's a photograph of her at a party in the dress. So
right.
The discrepancies there, and that's not saying that she's lying or anything else. It could just be a part of that. But when you're saying that you're so traumatized by the event and you put away the dress, and that's and you couldn't touch it or look at it, and then you're out at a party and you're photographed or videoed at a party wearing the same dress, then it creates maybe some suspicion within the jury.
Okay. They also seem to have brought into question her relationship with Lisa Wilkinson, and more particularly her dickhead husband, the bandana-wearing Fitz, who brokered the $320,000 deal that she got.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I think we just have to wait and see how this plays out. But yeah, I don't know. It's certainly. I don't know. I think it will be interesting to see how it plays out. That's what I do think.
So I wanted to bring something else up with you guys tonight. I've been contacted by some people who are very interested in building housing. Housing for people who find it very difficult to get housing at the moment. They have an ability, or they're importing some equipment. They're going to be using some very interesting new technology. Some of these homes, I saw some of the designs today. Some of these homes are magnificent. Some of them are pyramids, some of them are round, a bit like the Earth, and they are made out of a special fibre that's put together as boards, and you basically erect this thing however you like. Of course, pyramids have properties, special properties, and those who are into living in pyramid styles, or I used to live with a girl who had a pyramid in the lounge room, and she used to sit in it for half an hour every day. So these folks are looking for land. Now, I know that there was some people in Queensland who I think had about 400 acres. Somebody at the Sunshine Coast event that I did came up to me and told me about that. I would love for you to contact me again with those details, because the machine that is going to be producing these houses is on the boat. It's going to be arriving before the end of the year. So we're very keen to try and hook you up. And people in other states, if you have some land that could put 1, 2, or 3 or 4, or put a little eco village together, and I know Spiros is very interested in helping groups to put eco villages together. If there is land available, then we have people to fund, good, cheap housing for people. Good, cheap, well, not cheap, but affordable housing.
Affordable,
yeah. Affordable is the word. Not cheap, but affordable. And I think that's very important. So if you have some land, then please contact me, carl@vofhq.com, or send a note to Cherie at vofhq.com. Any state, anywhere. This stuff is very light, but very strong, and obviously has insulation properties, all sorts of great things. It's really fabulous product. And when the machine hits Australia, I'll have somebody in to talk about that. And hopefully by then we might have some people who are interested in putting maybe a little village on land. I know if you've got 400 acres, we could do, and you're not doing anything with it, we might be able to do something pretty spectacular. So let us know. That would be marvelous. What else is going on this week?
Carl, can I just answer a question in the comments? Hey, Guru, what's the story with Stop the Rot Facebook page? People on there saying they control the page and they are not friendly to the movement. Okay, so some people, look, I'm just getting trolled, people. What they've probably done is, and I have not, they've probably gone out and registered Stop the Rot, Sack the Lot, or done something like that, or registered the business name, or done something. They haven't got control of my Facebook page. As you can see, I've still, at this present time, got control of it. Okay, me and Kaz and Mel. But yeah, that's what they've done. They're just, you're going to see heaps of stuff, guys. Okay, you're just going to see heaps of stuff. They're out to troll us out. They're out to try and take us down. Why? Because all we do is speak the truth. Okay, and this is their big problem, folks. We are a worry to them. Us and our viewers are one big main concern to the government, okay, because we speak the truth. We act the truth, and that is a problem.
Starseeds, if you can get me in touch or send me an email address or something for either of those people, I'd love to get them on the show to talk about what they're into, because I think we're nearly at that time where some of that kind of disclosure is ready.
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, be very interested in talking to anybody like that. And I don't know if you guys checked it out. I mentioned it the other night on my show. And I've become a bloody addict. Bruce Sees All on YouTube. No. Have you checked out Bruce Sees All on YouTube?
No.
Well, he watches the moon, and he watches the sun, but he watches
I've heard about this guy.
very closely.
Yeah,
man. I'm trying to get a hold of Bruce Sees All. And Kaz, you're much better at finding people. So if you and Guru get him before I do, can I have him after you? He is just, I mean, it seems like a really nice guy in his YouTube videos, but the explanations and the vision that he shows you folks, and he compares his vision with NASA vision. Now, you would think NASA, with a $68 billion a year budget, would have some pretty bloody good telescopes, wouldn't you? Well, old mate's got a 14-inch something or other out the back with a Canon camera attached to it, and a couple of decent filters. And man, he's taking vision of the moon from like 500 feet above the surface. In some cases, he's
cool.
And yeah, it's mind blowing.
I had heard about him, but I haven't had time to go there yet.
Yeah. Well, there's if that's the moon, there's some mind-boggling shit on the moon. Can I tell you? Mind-boggling.
Oh, there you go, folks.
Bruce Sees All. And if you go there and you comment on one of his pages, tell him to contact Carl at vofhq.com, please. I've left a little message in one of them. So yeah, but go and check him out. Tell him we're giving him a flogging, and he might come over and talk to us.
There's a job.
Bruce Sees All. It's amazing.
There's a job for you viewers. I was about to say, I'm not even on my station. I'm sitting here going, yeah, cool, is all right. There's a job for you. Anyway,
we've got a few people in here who checked him out already, I think.
Cool.
And he's he's got a lot of very interesting stuff. Cheap land, look at old abandoned railway towns. Now, there's a good idea. Previously gazetted plant townships vacant. Yeah. Actually, there are probably a few mining townships that are vacant too. The problem is, what are you going to do with people
I've actually seen a couple of towns that have been for sale, the whole town. I have. Yeah. I've seen that previously on the net. I've seen whole towns for sale, little towns like that out west.
Chaos, you might be right. I might have exaggerated. It might be 5,000. It might be 50,000. It's a hell of a lot closer than NASA's. So there you go. So I think you're right, Guru. How do we, let's get back to the bit about the freedom fighters. How do we, I don't know, is there a way of bringing them all together? Because they've all got different plans, all got different ideas, all got different levels of ego, all significant, and they all seem to want to be the leader. That's usually a good sign that you want to avoid them. So, I'm a bit worried about what we do with them. I don't think we give them any air. I mean, I can't see they've brought anything reasonable to the party at the moment. If they had, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, we need to, as we've been talking about, this afternoon on a group call, guys. We need to get something moving, and we need to make that movement towards the main problem that we have out there. So I sort of mentioned it on my Carl show. That was the media, and we have to. So I'm hoping that we can group people up on the back end of the Melbourne rally, while everyone's grouped up and excited, Carl, and then from there spread the word that we need to take out the media. Now, in the comments there before, I just saw that someone said, it's all about exposing the media down in Melbourne and the billboard thing that they do, where they drive around different towns, pick towns and drive around all billboarded up. So obviously, if that person is in the know, that's supposedly what it's about, Carl, is exposing the media and exposing the billboard things that they've got.
Yeah. I mean, look on that though. Like everyone's got if we had, centralized leadership, then the police would know who to arrest and who to harass. So basically, the way that we do it, absolutely perfectly correct, and like the way that it's sort of happening. So. And we, Tammy Jane, this is Tammy Jane's thing. So we're supporting that. Phil did a call out. He needed people at the Governor General, so we supported that. It's just a matter of, picking which ones to support and that sort of stuff. So, yeah. I
see what Carl's saying, but we need an Australia-wide focus with all the freedom fighters in Australia. And we need to be taking out an identity or something. We need to be focusing on the same thing Australia-wide so that we can get some get some media coverage on it or affect the media, that we have to get coverage on it one way or the other.
At the moment, they just call us a disjointed rabble with, every man and his dog coming up with a new idea to gather a whole heap of people in one place for no particular reason that achieves absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but the same people tell us that that the cookies are good for us. We need to have more cookies.
You're right too. I'll have you know, a McDonald's cookie has not passed these lips in years. In fact, nothing from McDonald's has passed these lips in years now. So, just point that out. Chaos, yes, Carl at VoFHQ.com. I would love to see the moon up close and personal, and if you can help me with that, that would be wonderful. Chaos in our time. I don't know where you are in the world, but if I'm coming past your door, I'll call in one night and have a look. I'm just having a bit of a look here. The Vietnam veterans, yes, they do have. Now I know the Vietnam veterans put something together. I didn't think it was in South Australia. Maybe it is. They worked on something a couple of years ago. My biological father was a Vietnam veteran, and I got hooked up with them for a number of years in Victoria. This is going back quite some time. So I did hear that there were plans afoot to create veterans areas, and I know that there are a number of them: Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, Western Australia, probably South Australia too, where vets can just go and get off the grid, if you like. They've got all the facilities that they need, but they are very adept at coming in and building these properties and building facilities for people in need. So our veteran community, thank you very much for your service and for everything else that you bring. A lot of times we forget the veterans have been highly trained in various things, but now aren't allowed to either use those skills, or when they came out, they chose a different path, but they still have the skills and are now happy to use them, that they're a bit older, might have a bit more time on their hands. So I believe that our veterans are a group that we could call upon to help join us in this freedom fighter movement and become leaders in it. For any veterans out there that are interested in that sort of thing, then the People's Council is the way to go. Start looking at what Darren Bergwerf has achieved and is achieving on a daily basis with the Frankston People's Council, and let's start standing up in your town, your city, your suburb.
Definitely.
That's
council. What we got to do. We got to group up in our communities, folks. And look, here's all the pieces coming together, Carl. Now here you are talking about small homes, small houses. We're talking about people with land, you know what I mean? And this is what we got to do, guys. We got to get prepared, okay? We really do. We don't know what's coming, okay? But if they get to play out their playbook, we know what's coming, okay? We can't say it's coming, but we know what's coming if they get to continue what they are doing, all right? And we can't let them. I forget now who said they wanted to come to Frankston. Stephen, I think it was Stephen. 19th of October, I'll be at my place in Frankston with Darren Bergwerf, doing a show out of there. There we go. That's that one there. Aaron, Guru doesn't have a YouTube channel. They won't let me have one.
No,
we were talking about that today, folks. I'm not allowed on YouTube. I'm suspended for life off Twitter. People just don't like me. I get it.
So you can find him on Facebook at Stop the Rot.
Project Matilda.
And Project Matilda. Yeah, Project Matilda too. How do you contact me? You contact me mainly through Cherie these days, SHEREE at VoFHQ.com. And if you can email me at my email address, but at the end of the day, I may not answer you until sometime next week. So if it's urgent, don't email me, email Cherie. I just got so many to get through. And I'm working on it, trying very hard. But yes, Cherie, SHEREE at VoFHQ.com. And that's how you can get a hold of me. She'll tell you where I am, when I am. Going to Victoria next week, 15th and 16th in South Morang and Shepparton. Kaz, I thought I might call in a Wagga and stay at your place at one night on the way down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, while we're on
and
Victoria,
here's me expecting a shocked look on your face.
No, we accept anybody, mate. We don't care. Hey, while we're on Victoria, Carl, can I just say at the Ballarat court on Monday morning, one of our friends in the Freedom family. He's been, Carl, you know a bit about this story, our mate John.
Yep.
Well, he's attending court on Monday morning. So anyone in the Ballarat area that could go and be a live witness, okay, a person, and just get to watch how this guy can speak the language of the Blacks Dictionary and do his thing, guys. So as I said, we couldn't give too much information away on our show, but we would like some backup at the Ballarat local court on Monday morning, 9 to 9:30. Anyone that could be available for that would be much appreciated.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's going to be an important day.
Yeah, another thing too is, guys, we know that they're all coming from us. There's a saying that goes, a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Very often what we're seeing is people running to us with an emergency. We know we're under attack. So you've got common law groups to join and learn. You've got constitutionalists to join and learn. You've got various things. That's why Guru's been telling you to group up, because it's so you become equipped to be battle hardened within what's coming.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely. That's the hardest thing we've got to do. And I guess, I don't know about you guys, I think the time for waking people up is probably past us. Now it's just buckling up and watching. I don't like the term passing the popcorn around or reaching for the popcorn, but if you are out there looking and you know, or if you're even remotely awake, you know, in every headline, in every news story, something good is happening. They're portraying it as very bad, but something very good is coming. So we're going to go through a little bit of pain before it, but keep the faith, folks. Keep the faith. Yeah.
You're right.
You guys got anything you want to end up with tonight? We've kept the folks on there Friday night for an hour and 20 minutes so far. So
I just like the people to get that conversation going. We need to educate and we need to stand. We got a few things we need to stand up against, folks. Number one, Russia, the Cossacks just thrown us in the deep end there. That's why I didn't reply. But listen, anything we can do to help, we need to get Russia known that they are on our side, people, and the government are selling you down the friggin' river again, once again. All right, all this money could be used to friggin' help our own people in our own country. All right, millions and millions, like $500 million probably has gone over to that place. Why? Why can't, and we can't even have $1 billion to help our own people. It's bullshit, people. All right, so we need to educate. So let's get behind whatever the Cossacks asked us to do on the 22nd. And we need to be really stepping it up, guys. We need to be prepared to do what Melbourne's been doing, which is turn up every weekend somewhere and start hammering these guys. All right, get the numbers up, get going. Let's roll off the mission to Melbourne, keep your Freedom Party active, right? And let's keep banging targets. We got to pick fights.
Yeah. Keep out there, folk. Keep pushing the word. Keep doing the right thing. You know, when he says picking fights, we don't want you going to jail. There's no point in getting violent about this.
No, fights we can win, people. Fights we can win, which we can win.
Yeah. Don't go putting yourself inside or in harm in any way. That's not what we're about. All right, guys. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you,
a lot
Carl.
of people tonight pretty chuffed that God is involved in our conversation tonight, and amen to that. So, if you don't have much of a relationship with God, put it this way: if you don't have any relationship with God, I'd rethink it at the moment. You don't have to have the world's best relationship with God, but you do need a relationship with God if you're going to get through this. So,
never an engaged signal, folks. Every time you talk, every time you ring up, you go straight through on a direct line. There is no engaged signal up there with heaven.
Yep, ain't that the truth? Kaz, you wanted to say something?
I do, but I've forgotten it.
Do you have anything to do with those cookies?
Oh yeah, no, it's the cookies.
The cookies.
We use different words, so yeah.
Yes.
So that we're not. So
yes.
that's another thing that I really wanted to add on with what Dave was just talking about. So the reason why free speech is so valued in Western tradition is so that you, the listener, can actually hear both sides and work out for yourself what you believe in, and you can go and research it. And there has never been a time that it is more important. That's why they're shutting us down. That's why, because they know that it's the minute you go and have a look at what we're talking about, you'll see it's true.
Yeah.
But this is why.
You're right.
This is why it's so important at the moment. So, guys, share everything you can anywhere. It doesn't matter if people. We're beyond the point where people can name call you. Who cares?
Yeah.
No, we don't care.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks,
right.
guys.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, Guru. Appreciate you dropping whatever you were going to do on the Friday night, and the lovely Mel, who's no doubt pushing your buttons.
She's just got in from work, so I'm going to get out of here and spend some time with my gorgeous wife, mate.
Go forth and do that. And
what a
Kaz,
suck up
you.
I am, mate.
Well, you know where your bread's buttered, especially in the morning, and she puts the Vegemite on the right way, so you got to do the right thing.
Mate, I've got to throw a happy birthday out to my second wife, Megan, up in Queensland the other day. It was your birthday, Megs. I'll throw a goodbye to my third wife, Kaz, there, and I'll go and spend some time with my first wife, the one that I love more than the other two. I got to tell you, people.
Isn't there enough room?
Excellent. Yeah. Good on you, mate.
All right, guys. See you.
You go and have a good night. And Kaz, you have a good weekend too. I might be in touch. I might need a bed on the way down, so you never know. You might see me.
Okay, Carl? Just before I go?
15th, I'm in South Morang, so I'll be coming through on the 13th or 14th or something like that. So,
hey, Kaz, remember you've got those vouchers you can give him to stay down the road if you need to.
I don't know that I like the sound of that.
Someone else give me vouchers.
See you guys.
Thanks, Guru. See you, man. Thanks, Kaz. Really appreciate you. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. See ya.
All right. Cheers. See you later. All right, folks, thank you very much for your indulgence on a Friday night. I hope you enjoyed the Cossack and learned a bit about what's going on in Russia. As always, if you want to help us get down the road, we could use another litre of fuel in the car. You can donate at vofhq.com if you feel that way. No problem if you don't. We'll get there one way or the other. The good Lord does provide. Have a great weekend. If you're going out on the road doing weird things, then make sure you're not being the dickhead. There are plenty of dickheads out there. Oh, tell you what, I will drop you a little live tomorrow. It will probably only be on None2K because it'll be coming from my phone. So if you're watching any other of the channels, so what have I got up at the moment? I think of Voice of Freedom and The Voice of Freedom still working, and a couple of others. But None2K will be the one where I'll throw up some content tomorrow. There's a very special birthday party happening for a little community radio station that I don't mind helping out. In the Redlands in Brisbane, and Bay FM are having their 30th birthday party tomorrow, and one of my old mates is the headline act playing in the afternoon, Brian Cadd. So I might get a little bit of a chat with Caddy if I'm lucky. We'll see what happens. But there are a few other artists floating around there tomorrow, so I might be able to bring you a little bit of mirth, madness and mayhem, as long as the music can't be heard. I guess that's going to be the big thing. They'll ban me for that. I don't know. We'll figure it out, folks. So tomorrow on None2K only, there'll be a couple of little updates at some stage. Thank you again for your indulgence tonight, folks. I really appreciate everything that you bring to the show. Your comments are important. The trolls, not so much. I only delete them because they seem to annoy you more than they annoy me. And I've got to figure out how I can get moderators, because I can't do it right, obviously. So I will figure that out. I'll watch the YouTube video over the weekend, and those people I've already spoken to about being moderators, be prepared for an email that says, congratulations, you now are one. Have a great weekend, folks. If you're going out on the roads, just be careful of the dickheads and make sure you're not going to be one.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!